Hey YouTube, this video is about red brick dust. If you want to get red brick dust, there is a very easy way. You just go on the internet and order it and it will be delivered to your door. But if you are like me and you prefer it to do the more difficult way and in my opinion the best way, you can get a red brick like this. And not just any brick. Today's bricks are being colored with a red dye and that's not what you want. So get an old brick from places that where houses are being torn down, and get a piece, not a whole brick, because maybe the people want to reuse the bricks. And then you can start filing it down, or maybe smashing it with a hammer until you have the dust. But during this process you can add your own energy to it and smudge it so all the negative energies are gone that are maybe attached to it. And then you have your own protective red brick dust. Now, red brick dust has a very old history, and it's like 32,000 years old. But back then they didn't use red brick dust; they used something different called it's a mineral called red ochre, and red ochre clay was used in many different sacred purposes. And in the Wee Witches, we continue that tradition with the red brick dust, but there are also witches back then that used something different called henna powder and ground hematite and red iron oxide powder. And technically all of this was a substitute for menstrual blood. Now, there are witches who don't like to use menstrual blood, and I suggest that they do, because it holds a very strong protective power, and sometimes we can use that extra bit of power, because menstrual blood is so strong, it is so powerful and so pure that, yeah, maybe I should do a video about menstrual blood. But today's video is about red brick dust. And red bricks were traditionally made from red clay, and the use of bricks goes back like 7,000 years ago, when they were introduced in when they were first found in southern Turkey and Jericho, and then later on in Egypt and Europe, but because of the ancient Romans, they wanted to expand their empire, and they introduced many different things to the places that they went to, like the use of, I think it was turnips instead of pumpkins for Halloween, but I have to look that up and maybe do also a video about that. Anyway, red bricks were made in kilns, and the magical properties of red clay, part of it is that it contains iron oxide, and it helps bind the other minerals in the kiln, and iron is known to repel negative energies and entities, because well, think of the iron railroad spikes. Now they were very expensive and difficult to come by the regular normal people and of course the poor people. So they used red brick dust as a substitute, and that way it was used in for many different protective purposes, and we used in different ways. Now, of course, you can put it in mojo bags, but the most traditional way that it is used is the thin red line across the door step, the door entrance of the house, and when I first learned about red brick dust, I didn't know all the history behind it and why it was used, and I just figured it was because of the bricks. A house is made of bricks, the walls are made of bricks, and a house is used to protect yourself from so many things, like intruders and rain and storm and the cold. So I figured if you want protection, you make sure that the entrances of the house are as strong as the walls, and the walls are made of bricks. So if you have brick dust and you sprinkle it across the doorstep or the windows, you make the house more secure, more protected, and that made sense to me. And then I figured out that it has other traditions, other reasons. Now, when you put down the red line across the doorstep, it doesn't necessarily have to be visible. You can hide it under your door mat, and that will make people just change their mind and go home if they want to do something that will just make you miserable, or if they want to hurt you. There is a story about this girl. Of course, today she is a grown-up woman. Anyway, when she was a girl, she visited her grandparents, and her grandfather had mixed the red brick dust with the paint that he was going to use to paint the door steps, the steps to the entrance to the door. Well, when it was finished, the little girl visited her grandparents, and she was looking out the window, and she noticed that one of the neighbors was coming up towards the house, and this neighbor wasn't a very nice lady. She gossiped, and she was mean, and she wasn't very nice. So she came up to the door, and she stepped on the first step of the steps to the door, and she just froze, and she got very irritated because she couldn't move, and she just stood there with her one foot on the step. And she was the little girl was looking at her through the curtains, and she just turned around and very angrily left the place. And she told her grandmother, and her grandmother asked her grandfather to do the back of the house too, the entrance of the back of the house too, because just to make sure that lady didn't come back. And that's how strong this magic can be. You can also use red brick dust in floor washes if you just want to rid the house of negative energy. You can add it to a floor wash, because in the old days they didn't just sprinkle the red brick dust across the in the entryway. They first made a mixture. They added urine to water and scrubbed the the doorway until it was clean, and then they sprinkled, when it was dry, they sprinkled the red brick dust across the doorway. And even if they still wasn't sure that the negative energies couldn't enter, they also wrote down the name of the police captain and burned it until it was until it turned to ashes. Couldn't think of the word ashes, so it was ashes. And then they didn't sprinkle it, but they added it to the water and the urine to make it even more powerful and protective. Now you can also add it to things. This is called reddening. You can add it to of course urine, ammonia, or vinegar, and this is called reddening or reddening, I think it's called. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I don't do that type of thing. What else do I have to talk about? The way I see it, you can add it to windows and doors, of course, but on the outside, because you need to have a barrier that is strong from the outside coming in. And then you sprinkle salt in the windowsills or on the inside of the door. But it's your magic, and if you want to change it up, it's your magic. So if that makes it stronger, you can switch it up. I'm pretty sure that's it. Oh, I forgot to mention about the I just told you about scrubbing the steps first, the doorway first with the urine water. You have to do that on Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and you get up before everyone is awake, and don't talk to anyone, and just go outside and then scrub it, and then when it dries, sprinkle the red brick dust. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and don't talk to anyone when you get up. And I think that's because you want to be very focused when you do this kind of magic. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Red brick dust is used all over the world. It's not contained to one part of the world. So there are witches who use it in their own kind of magic, and that doesn't mean that other witches who use a different kind of magic can't use it. It has traditions from all over the world, so it's not particular to one kind of place. That's the last thing that I wanted to say about it. And blessed be, and I'll see you in the next video.